What are the top 3 reasons that toddlers cannot sleep through the night?
Okay.
In your experience.
Yeah. So we have to start and think about kind of who we're dealing with here. So when I say toddler, I'm really talking about kids who are like 2.5, really all the way up to 8 years old is who I serve.
Wow.
So when you're, I feel like most of my families are probably in the 3, 4, 5-year-old range, kind of when you're in this toddler bed, or in this big kid bed out of the crib. And you have to realize like who we're dealing with here. Like this child is at a stage of life where their whole purpose is to kind of push boundaries and figure out how they fit into this world. You know, that's how they're figuring things out. They're really striving for control because everything in their lives is told to them. We tell them what to wear, where to go, when, what to eat, all these things. And so they're really striving to find some way to have some control in their lives, right? And they are very attached to their parents. And so we have this kind of strong personality. And what happens is, I think a lot of times parents don't realize that their kids, they need to really start to understand their kids are older, and it's time to let your kids have an opinion and listen to your kids when they're talking about bedtime. Because when they're babies, you know, we just kind of put them in their crib.
Right.
We do what we need to do to get them to go to sleep. But once they're older, we can involve our kids more in the process. So what happens is a lot of times at bedtime, you get pushback from kids because they don't want to go to bed. Kids have FOMO, you know, kids know that you're awake and they want to stay up with you. So you've got this severe case of FOMO. We've got this kid who's trying to be independent, trying to push the boundaries. And then parents are there thinking, okay, like we just read 3 books, we'll read another one, you know, and the kids are, you know, asking for more things, and parents are thinking, okay, well, maybe this is the last time. Maybe this is the last potty break, you know, or kids are running out of the room, or kids are begging, stay with me, lay in my bed. And then parents just end up giving in because it feels easier in the moment.
Yes.
And not to like blame parents, because we all know that it's important that our kids go to sleep. We're tired. We're like willing to do whatever, you know? And so unfortunately, that kind of willingness to do whatever it takes kind of end up backfiring, because then kids start to expect that that's how it's going to go. When they ask for the one more book, you're going to give it to them. When they keep running out of their room and asking for things, you're going to give it to them. When they're begging you to stay, you're going to give it to them.
Oh, man.
So that's what ends up causing a lot of the sleep problems, is that parents end up over-inserting themselves into their kids' sleep process. That's like really the heart.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if that's what you thought I was going to say.
No, I mean, it totally makes sense. So what do you do in that point when you are transitioning out of a crib into a toddler bed? What are the best practices when we do that?
Yeah. So the best thing that I say to parents is, first of all, don't hurry to put your kid into a bed. I think a lot of times, you know, people look at their kid, they're getting older. Maybe they started preschool, you know, they're 2, or maybe there's a new baby coming and you need the crib. And so parents are like, okay, time to put the kid in a bed. When really there's no hurry. I say wait till your kid is at least 3 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Or, you know, in high school. As long as possible, keep them in the crib. Keep them in the crib. Oh, and then really work to have your baby, when they're in the crib, start to develop those good sleep habits before you move them to a bed.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Because once they're free and in a bed and have all this freedom, everything's just going to get worse.
Really?
What are good sleep habits?
Yeah. So when I say good sleep habits, I mean kids who can go to bed and fall asleep independently. So without needing help from a parent. And then that will help them sleep through the night. So you really want a kid who is you're able to go through a bedtime routine.
Right.
And then you're able to, you know, put them in the crib and leave the room when they're still awake. That's really what you want. I'm looking at Katrina.
I've never had that happen, so I'm already behind. But that's okay.
No, you're not
We'll
behind
get there.
yet, because are you still in a crib?
We co-slept.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we're already behind. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I know we have an uphill battle, but it's okay because I'm ready to take all the advice from
That's
you.
why Jessica's here.
So that
Well-
we can get to a good point.
And, you know, sometimes I feel like it's actually easier as kids get older because, like I said, they are opinionated and they really want to be heard. And so when we as parents can learn how to kind of harness that and like harness their desire for control, and we can use it for good, then it can actually make the process easier.
Good. So then I have a question. So then when it is bedtime, let's say it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, like how do you get them to bed when they don't want to go to bed? Like you talked about establishing routine. What if they don't even want to start the routine? Like, is it just, all right, we're going to kick and scream to the bathroom till you get to the tub and just keep going through it? Or is there some sort of compromise you start making for a few days? What do you suggest?
Well, okay, so the first thing is timing. So that bedtime's a little bit later than what I typically recommend. So I...
Can I say, Jessica, my daughter last night, she slept at midnight. Okay. So
we're being honest here.
When I'm saying we can use any kind of information and advice, we will take it all, because she's been sleeping at midnight. She slept at midnight. And I'll give you one little wrench to throw into the thing. We just got back from California probably 3 weeks ago. So not only was her schedule messed up, she was jet lagged.
Yeah.
So trying to get her back.
So let's have a little empathy. Okay?
Yeah, she doesn't normally sleep at midnight.
Yeah, that definitely throws a wrench into things.
When does she normally sleep?
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Okay, back to Jessica.
I could get her at 9 or 10. I've never gotten her at 7 or 8 unless one time we traveled east. So
you're just letting time zone working.
That was easier.
You're like, it's 7. I mean, you think it's 10, but it's 7 here.
Yeah,
so.
Correct.
So, okay, one thing that will make it easier is going to bed earlier.
Okay.
Because kids, their bodies have kind of a natural rhythm. And if you can hit like the nail on the head in terms of timing, it'll actually be easier for her to fall asleep. And it's going to be somewhere in that 7 to 8 time frame. And a lot of times parents miss it, though. A lot of times parents miss this bedtime. So what you're saying is not like uncommon at all. But you were saying what's going to make it easier. So the answer is trying to get the timing right, because what happens is when you're trying to put your kid to bed too late and they've already gotten like a second wind, that's just going to make everything more difficult. So then you're fighting an uphill battle. A kid who already has cortisol and adrenaline, and they're hyped up, man, so then you're trying to bring them down, and that's when you're getting so much resistance. So if you can get them to bed at the right time, that will help. That'll be like one step. And so looking for kind of those signs of sleepiness in that 7 to 8 time period is important. And they could be subtle. So you might see, I call them like there's sleepy signs, and then there's hyper signs actually. So sleepy signs are like, let's say your kid starts twirling their hair. That's what my daughters always did. They always started twirling their hair. So really subtle. I'm not talking about yawning or eye rubbing, like common ones. I mean, like if they just kind of start to zone out, maybe they get a little fussy, or maybe they're like laying their head down on the table at dinner, or like their body seems heavy. Like those are subtle signs that they're tired. But another sign might be, like, let's say your daughter gets super hyper at 8 o'clock. Well, that's that second wind kicking in. So that means that bedtime should have been a little earlier.
Oh, good to know.
So if you kind of look for those signs, getting the right time will help, but then also just getting in the routine of, putting her to bed at that same time, her body will start to know, instead of it being like 9 or 10 or 11, she'll start to learn that at 7:30, that's when we go to bed. And then we do these certain steps in the routine very uniformly every night. Building that repetition helps to actually like help her body feel more tired and go to sleep.
That's great.